What's going on? What's going on, everybody? It is the only sports podcast. I'm Will, and making his triumphant return, Casino over there.
Hi guys.
How's it going, Casino?
Better now. Better than back here on the show. It's been holiday crazy. Yeah. So for those who don't know, my absence has been just a lot of new changes at work's been happening with the new owner. So good things, bad, things, adjustment things. So we got all that going on. Plus you have the holidays with the traveling to traveling to California for the in-laws. Plus I got COVID and had more kidney stone issues at the same time, by the way. COVID and a kidney stone. It's great stuff, guys. I highly recommend it at the same time. My entire family got COVID as well, and that's who I got it from. And they were, I don't feel good for a day, and then they were like, oh, now I just have some sinuses. I'm okay. Yet I'm over there just like dying. But I am back. So I know BJ ruined your ear holes with 2 solo days. But I am back.
The funniest thing about that is our last episode on YouTube is our most watched episode.
All right.
The last episode.
Well, it was nice talking to you guys. See you later. I'm out.
Our most watched episode in one day, we already have 50 views on that video. How? I have no fucking idea. I don't know why everybody loved that episode, but could it just be because it was me? Yes, probably. Do we know? No, we don't. So here we are, Casino. We're back running on rejuvenated energy going into the new year. This is also, Casino.
Well, I felt like my last episode with you was really good. I thought we had a really good episode that episode.
Both my solo episodes have more views than our last episode.
Well, you know what? I don't know.
I think it has to do with time. I'm chalking it up to the time of the episode.
Bullshit.
We're trying to figure out this.
I'm just not liked. I mean, I get told all the time by the listeners, my friends who listen to this show. They tell me all the time, I'm talking about you, Francisco.
I mean, I don't disagree with him. Francisco sounds like a smart man, and his name's fun to say. But but the 2 milestones, Casino. This is our last episode of 2023.
As you see, I'm still not 100%. So it's all good.
Last episode of 2023. It is also episode 98. So 2 more episodes before the glorious episode 100. Will we do something special for episode 100? No, because we're probably going to forget until after the fact, and then we'll do something special on episode 101.
Are we going to dress up again?
Oh, I like that idea. We'll discuss it. But Casino, we're also here sometimes on the Only Sports Podcast. We talk about sports. So speaking of sports, I went over in the last solo episode. I know you listened to it. Everybody did. Week
totally.
16,
I listened to
it. Week 16. You had a fantastic week, Casino. You got 12 wins.
I almost hit my record.
The only games different, you picked the Commanders, Colts, Broncos, and Bengals. So if you would pick those 4 different, you think, let's say this podcast goes on for another 5 years. You think 3, 5, whatever. And let's say a couple years. You think one of us will ever get a perfect week? It's got to happen, right?
No.
It's got to happen.
No, it will never happen.
Until this week, which I'm calling right now. I'm getting a perfect week.
Sure.
But going into week 17, I only had 9 right last week. You took some big swings, which I respected. You picked the Raiders over the Chiefs, which
I did.
That was a fucking home run. Why did you pick the Raiders over the Chiefs?
I do not. It was supposed to be rainy. I mean, there was some weather, but it was not as much weather as I was thinking there was going to be. But there was some weather, but I just don't trust the Chiefs receivers. They don't seem to have any energy left. I feel like the 2 teams have switched the pendulum on their swing. where the Raiders, they got rejuvenated after they got rid of McDaniels. That team looks so much better. They play football. They're trying to actually win games for their coach. Um, and then the Chiefs, after the whole Patrick Mahomes thing, and even a little bit before, they were just flat. They're just coming out. They don't seem like they're trying to win games. They're trying to complain to win games. They're not trying to play football to win games. So and that's not just Mahomes. That's just, it seems like the players have given up.
Yeah.
So
It
I just had to get it
also
was a rivalry game. I, I don't, yeah, it was a rivalry game. I didn't trust the receivers. I thought the Raiders defense has been really stepping up lately. I really like how they handled Patrick Mahomes and put the pressure on him. And yeah, I thought that was going to happen. And yeah, I know I nailed that one out of the park. That was a good
yeah.
one. They win.
I did the reverse. Speaking of nailing it out of the park, I did the reverse jinx on the Cowboys, which means, of course, the Dolphins won, which is what I
And I
wanted.
picked that one.
You did pick Dolphins. I said it when we were picking the games. My last week of trusting the Jaguars. If they couldn't beat the Buccaneers, I'm never trusting the Jaguars again. Not that I have, but this was like the last ditch effort, and
And
they
that was
get
the other one
absolutely
I picked
annihilated.
different. Yep.
But also, and this will
Because I do like Baker Mayfield. I've been telling you that I like Baker on that team, and he had a hell of a game that game. 26 for 35, almost 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, protected the football. I really enjoyed watching him play that game. That was good.
You know how I love made up stats that don't matter and where they do dumb shit like that.
Mhm.
But did you see the week? I believe the Bucks, what they played the Packers like 2-3 weeks ago,
Yeah,
where Baker Mayfield had the only perfect passer rating of the entire season when
yep,
throwing more than like 10 passes or something like that.
crushed it.
Yes. So this segues Casino into last night's game, which I'll tell you what, that first half of Browns Jets was one of the most entertaining blowouts I've seen all season, followed by an insanely boring second half to that game.
Oh,
Because
did you cover? You didn't. Are we
no,
still
I did
talking
not.
about week 16?
No, we're now on to week 17 because it
Oh,
started
well,
last night.
right. I know, but I want to say a couple other things.
Well, no, I'm seguing it,
I
Casino.
don't want you to say goo it yet.
I'm doing the snake eating its tail thing.
Uh,
Which this as
Fine.
of last night, the Browns won 37-20 against the New York Jets. On the last solo episode, on the last two, I've done my teams that can win the Super Bowl bubble. I call it the Super Bowl Super Bubble, right, Casino? And then I
Nice.
have the teams on the fringes at the outset. So I would like your thoughts on who do you think I'm being too generous with in the bubble? Who do you think I'm leaving out of the bubble? Who do you think deserves to be in the bubble? How many more times can I say bubble? So
Mm.
in the bubble, I have Dolphins. I have Chiefs, who I actually took out of the bubble. I took out of the bubble. They're now on the fringes. So Chiefs are on the fringes. I have Ravens, I have Niners, and I have Lions. Those are the only teams in the bubble. On the fringes around the bubble, I have Chiefs, I have Eagles, I have Cowboys, I have Bills, and I have Browns.
I like
I
that. I think that's a good bubble.
I need to see it going into the playoffs. I have Rams and Bucks. Like not in the bubble, but on the can jump into the bubble with 2 weeks of if the
Can
Rams,
jump onto the outside of the bubble.
yes, if the Rams beat the 49ers, where the 49ers are trying to get the number 1 seed in week 18, they're officially in the fringe bubble. This is how I drew it up.
All I'm doing is, yeah, all I'm picturing.
Fringes.
See, I don't like that bubble. Like that's still one. That's a bubble within a bubble. I don't like that. If you're gonna do, you gotta do one big bubble and then like those like weird awkward tumor bubbles on the outside.
Hmm. You're thinking
That's
like of a like a DNA model, like how a DNA looks, where they're all just attached.
no, we're not. No, You've seen what I'm talking about, where it's like you got the one big bubble and then you blow the little bubbles and it looks like it's like
Hmm.
growing tumors, and that's
Yeah,
that's a bubble within a bubble. I don't like that because they're all within the bubble.
that's not true because the only bubble that counts is the middle. The outside does
But
not
it's
count.
still a bubble.
I'm gonna put this up
No.
here.
And for those of you who can't see this and you're just listening, if you draw a circle, if you draw a bubble, and then you draw another giant bubble out over that bubble, are they all within the same bubble? They are all within the same bubble, technically.
I get what you're saying.
And
I get
bubbles,
what you're saying.
bubbles can't do that. Bubbles can't stay where there's one big one, one little one, and they perfectly know because they're gonna touch and then they're gonna pop, and then everybody's in the same bubble.
You know what?
No, so you gotta have tumor bubbles.
This is what I was missing from you not being here.
Yeah, talking about tumor bubbles.
Yeah, critiquing my bubbles. But any addendums, Casino, to this bubble? Any changes? Any teams you think inside the bubble should be outside
Well,
the?
changes to the bubble. Yes, I told you that already.
Yes, to the
No, but I
structure
do
of the
like
bubble.
what you have going on there. Dude, Flacco coming back out of nowhere. And wasn't he like he wasn't? They just picked him up and like he was like coaching his son's peewee not too long ago or something like that.
Yes, there's also
That's
the
wild.
news that broke where he contacted the Jets after Aaron Rodgers went down and was like, "Hey, remember when I played for you guys last year? Like, I'd be willing to step in." And they were like, no thanks. We got the MFer and we got Trevor Simeon." And then Flacco was like, "Okay, I'm just gonna murder you on Thursday night then." And they were
Dude,
like, "That's fine. We
that
want
was
that.
so
We
good.
want
I
that to
love
happen."
that. The Browns picking him up may actually they should have done it sooner. They should have done it sooner, in my opinion. I really like because we've talked about it. The Browns, all they needed was a competent quarterback. They don't need even a great quarterback. They needed a competent quarterback, and they could have won a couple more games. Dude, just imagine this team. This Browns team easily could have been within that within that inner circle bubble of yours. Um, if they didn't, there it is. No, they got to
Better.
touch. They got to touch.
They're
It's
not
like the bubble
touching. They're
with the
not in the
tumor tub.
bubble. No, because if a bubble touches another bubble, it becomes part of that bubble. So
No,
these are
it means they're on the fringe. They're on the other.
yeah, they're on
Oh
the
my gosh,
fringe.
I'm gonna have to make you.
Yeah, I would like to see. Now I don't know what bubble you're talking about.
Oh my gosh, wife. I don't know where she went. She went in her other room, but I'm gonna have her grab me a pen and paper, and I'm gonna show you tumor bubbles. What tumor
Yes.
bubbles are supposed to be?
Give me
Because those are just
tumor
other
bubbles.
bubbles that aren't even close.
Because it's
could
a
be just
bubble brigade. But
bubbles.
um
I think I know what our cover picture is today.
yeah.
Anyway, but the Browns, man, if they didn't lose Chubb at the beginning of this season, I mean, Jerome Ford, he's come in, he's done very well, bringing back Hunt, who knows the system. He hasn't done a whole lot for them, but he's been like their goal line kind of guy when they need to, or the 1 yard guy. So he's panned out how they need him to pan out. But if you still had Chubb and you had a decent quarterback, whether it was still Watson or putting in earlier, if you were able to putting in Joe Flacco, this team, dude, 11-5, we're probably looking at the same record as the Ravens right now. If that
Yeah.
was like this Browns team is scary. The defense is absolutely legit. Love them, and I can't talk more highly about this team than what I've talked about, man. I love this team.
Yeah. Well, also
If Flacco ends up, let's just say it happens. If Flacco just comes back into the league and wins a Super Bowl,
it's
just
Kurt Warner 2.0, right?
dude, it's
Like
wild.
that's what it
Yeah,
is. It's I
it's
mean
absolutely insane. And to think that, and then would you think he would be the most underrated quarterback to win multiple Super Bowls?
well, it would be then the discussion would be who would you rather have, Eli Manning or Joe Flacco, right? Because they both won 2 Super Bowls, both probably won't get into the Hall of Fame, but the Hall of Fame, when it comes to guys like this, and there was always that debate with Eli Manning when he retired, is he a Hall of Famer or is he not? And the is he side of the coin was the Hall of Fame is a shrine to great players, but it's also a history book of the NFL, right? Like guys in there are used to tell the history of the NFL. And you can't have the history of the NFL without Eli Manning, right? Because
Mm.
he won those 2 Super Bowls. He ended what would have been the best, I still think to this day, the best football team I've ever seen in my life,
I
which
agree.
is
That
yeah, that
that
the
year
undefeated Patriots team. But then because again, I think Kurt Warner's a Hall of Famer because he did it with the Rams, and then he did it with the Cardinals. Now he only won one of the 3 Super Bowls he was in, but still he took 3 teams to a Super Bowl. Uh and again, I think it is Kurt Warner 2.0, where Kurt Warner obviously wasn't established before he started for the Rams, but he was this guy kind of came out of nowhere. Flacco's been in the league since he left the Ravens. He's been on a bunch of teams, hasn't really done anything, and then all of a sudden gets plugged back into the AFC North, goes to the Browns, and is having, since Flacco, I just saw the stat today, since Flacco's been in the starting quarterback for the Browns, he is leading in every passing category. That's fucking crazy.
that's
Like,
wild.
that's insane that he is now like back to, and again, remember that year the Ravens won the Super Bowl where they played the 49ers? Like, he went on one of the greatest playoff runs by a quarterback ever
It
and
was wild.
that Super Bowl. And now, what if it just he's clicking at the right time? We always say this every year. It doesn't matter how you start the year, how you are in the middle of the year. It's always how you end the year and the momentum you take into the playoffs. And that's why, I mean, speaking of the Eli Manning Giants, right? Those 2 teams were bad regular season teams and then just caught fire in the playoffs and won a Super Bowl. So the Browns right now still have the number 1 defense. They have the number, I believe it was 7th in rushing, and then they have the
Which is
number,
crazy without Chubb. They would be number 1 if they had Chubb.
yeah. Well, and then Jerome Ford has actually been pretty
Oh,
decent. And
no, that's what I
again,
was saying is he came in and he's been a stud. He's been a
yeah.
stud. I missed him on my fantasy. I probably would have made the playoffs with him. Actually, I know I would have made the playoffs if I was able to get him on my fantasy. I missed him by 1 waiver position.
Ugh.
Ugh.
Uh,
It killed me. It crushed me.
but Browns 7th in total offense, number 1 in defense, 12th in passing. That's only getting better week after week. And then the 10th in rushing. So they literally have a number 1 defense, a probably by the end of the season going to be a top 5 offense. Like, who's playing better than the Browns? I mean,
Yeah,
they
that's
are
a scary team
probably
to
the
me.
Ravens. That's it.
Yeah, the Ravens.
Like,
The Ravens are by far the best team, and they are showing it, dude. They absolutely stomped the Niners. That was one that I wanted to talk about. I mean, we both picked the Ravens. We both picked the
mhm,
Ravens. We saw
we
this.
did.
We saw the Ravens coming. And dude, they absolutely they played old school football, man. They were hard hitting. That was a physical game.
And I
I
said on last
I loved it.
podcast, yeah, when I talked about that game, I said even though that score was pretty close for the first half, it never felt like the Niners were going to come back or do anything against this Ravens defense because the Ravens were just killing them up front. And then Lamar Jackson, once or twice every drive in that game, would do something where you're like, Jesus, like
Right.
that one sack that turned into like that one where the pocket collapses and it looks like a sack and then he just turns it on for like a 35-yard run and doesn't even like juke, literally just runs around Fred Warner. I was like, all right, they're done. And then I wanted to get your thoughts on that game, specifically Casino, because
Hmm.
what we have been Brock Purdy defenders on this podcast, right? And this game was the ultimate. I told you I was right about Brock Purdy from every Brock Purdy hater in the world, which apparently is everyone not on this podcast. And if you're either a 49er fan or us two, you like Brock Purdy. If you're anyone else, you fucking hate his guts and think he should be a backup and all this kind of shit. And then the
No, no, because okay, so yeah,
yeah,
going into that game, he was 29 touchdowns, 7 interceptions.
Yes.
29 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. That is phenomenal. Yes. So right now he's 29 touchdowns, 11 interceptions with 112 QBR, over 4,000 yards, like over 4,000 yards, almost a 70% completion rating. So many quarterbacks would kill for those stats right now. Kill for those stats. You want to know what he did last game against the Cardinals? 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. I don't understand why people are freaking out. They played the best team in the NFL right now. The team that everybody's like, they have the best odds to win. I just saw something on my phone that the Ravens have like a 26% chance to win the Super Bowl. They're the best team in the NFL right now. We've started talking about them about 4 weeks ago, that they're an absolute juggernaut. I would be scared to play the Ravens when they're healthy. And they're starting to roll teams. So I honestly don't think that this is a panic mode. The Ravens were just hungry to beat a top tier team. They wanted to prove that they're the best team in the league right now. Going into last week, who was the pick that everybody was like, oh, they're probably the best team in right now? It was the Niners. So like it's the 2 top teams. So it's just one team being superior than the other top team right now. That's all that was, is that defense had an absolute monster of a game. For the most part, like the 2 games before that, Brock Purdy, 135 passer rating, and then a 122 passer rating, and then a 148 passer rating, that was 10 touchdowns and 1 interception in the last 3 games. And those games were against Eagles. Those games were against Eagles, Seahawks, Cardinals. So take the Cardinals out of there. You have the Eagles and the Seahawks, and you dominate those games. You looked hella good playing in those games. Like, calm down. The Ravens were just a really good team, and they're going to stomp. And I guarantee, like, even though I do like the Dolphins, remember, they're the glass jaw kind of David Goliath kind of thing, where they're fast and their speed. If they can beat you, they're going to beat you with their speed. But I think the Ravens, being a hard-hitting team, like that's that MO for that team, dude, they're going to get the Ravens should stomp. I don't know if this is going to happen. I'm going to pick the Ravens, but the Ravens should stomp the Dolphins because of how their 2 styles of play is and how I've been talking about these 2 teams the entire season. When the Dolphins play somebody that's going to be hard-hitting, they're going to struggle. The Ravens, all they have to do is just beat the shit out of them physically, and they're going to. The Ravens should win this game. And that is another top-tier team. So if the Ravens go stomping the Niners, stomping the Dolphins, and then they have their divisional game against the Steelers, which, the Steelers are also a notorious for it's lackluster of late, but notorious for a hard-hitting, they're that yellow and black hard-hitting team. That's what you expect from the Ravens and the Steelers franchises. So that could be just a tough game for the Ravens. I still expect them to win against the Steelers, but that's an in-division game, 2 hard-hitting teams. So if the Ravens win out these last 2 games and they go into the playoffs with the best record, I would be scared shitless if I was any other team, because they are showing dominance against the best teams in the league.
Well, and
as of late. So going full circle on that, I'm not worried for when it comes to the Niners side. I'm not worried about Brock Purdy. And yes, I've been seeing it and hearing people talk about, Brock Purdy, not what we thought he was. He threw 4 interceptions when he played a good team. No, because he played other good teams recently, the Seahawks twice, the Eagles, and he played really, really well. So people need to slow their roll on that.
When Kyle Shanahan is down when a Kyle Shanahan 49ers coach team is down by just 3 points going into the 4th quarter, what do you think his record is, Casino?
1 and whatever.
They are 1-32.
Hey, look at that. I called it. 1 and whatever.
Nice. And they have won 1 out of 33 games when they enter the 4th quarter down by a field goal. Not getting blown out, not by 10 points, not by a touchdown, by 3 points. Also, they are 0-38 when they enter the 4th quarter down by 8 points or more. So what that tells me is the second the 49ers are down, there's no way to come back. And that doesn't matter if the quarterback is Brock Purdy. It doesn't matter if it's uh Sam Darnold. That doesn't matter if it's Jimmy G. It's this is again, we've also, the thing I would say to piggyback off what you were saying, Casito, about the Ravens in the playoffs would be we haven't seen them do anything in the playoffs, right? Lamar Jackson's entire career is filled with him leading great
That's
Ravens
true.
teams into the postseason and then them getting upset by worse teams, right?
Most of the
That's
time,
his
though, he's
entire
pretty
career.
banged up, though.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. If they go into this playoffs and just look like they do in the regular season, they're the odds-on favorite and clearly should be right now to win the Super Bowl, right? I don't think anyone's on their level. And also, when you look at all the elite teams, especially if we're going by even all the teams in the bubble and outside of the bubble that we just said were legit Super Bowl contenders, they are the only team in that entire mix who has not had a blowout loss this entire season. The only team. And they've also blown out, we forget, they've blown out, let's see, at this point, we're just talking about, they just blew out the 49ers. They blew out the Jaguars. They blew out the Seahawks. They blew out the Lions. And then they also blew out the Browns. So for all four playoff teams, or all four teams that are going into the playoffs, they have not just beat, they've literally dominated the entire season and just blew the doors off all of them.
Yeah. Again,
So
so that's why I'm not too worried about Brock Purdy on the NFC side. He played the best team in the league, and they
yeah,
showed it.
and the best NFC team, who I still think is the 49ers, got blown out by the best AFC team, which has also happened this season. Like Lamar Jackson against NFC teams, he's lost one game, not this year, his entire career. So when he plays NFC teams, he destroys them. Like that's
Wild. That's a wild
crazy.
stat.
That is, like, I don't know what's more crazy, the Kyle Shanahan 1-32 entering the fourth quarter, or the fact that Lamar Jackson does not lose to NFC teams. Like, those are two stats that are just mind-boggling. And but then it also becomes, I still feel like in the NFC, it's I really feel like this is the Lions' year
Dude, I've been
because
telling you, they're so good. Goff looked good against Vikings. That was a huge, huge game for them. Yes, Jefferson, you know, the Vikings weren't 100%, but and it was still a close game, but it was in Minnesota. That was a huge game though for the Lions. They were going into Minnesota, a rival, a massive, massive rival for them, as well as being in division, and all that, as well as this would have been if the Lions won their first divisional title, first time in this division, but first divisional title in 30 years.
that's
That
crazy.
dude, it absolutely like it was a huge moment. So it's always that thing like where teams in the big moments to make their team better or whatnot, like sometimes they fold. Well, the Lions had that pressure in multiple ways. They had the pressure to, finally win the franchise, win the division in over 30 years. They also had to beat their rival doing it on rival soil. It was a big moment. So them only winning by 6, to me, that's like winning by 2 touchdowns. Like that was a huge win for the Lions. And I think I like them, man. That was a huge boost for that team to win that game specifically.
Yeah. Is there any more week 16 games you wanted to
Nah.
touch on, or can we move to week
I just don't
17?
know why the Patriots wanted to win against the Broncos. That my friend texted, my coworker texted me, and he was like, the Patriots coming back is like, it's a Patriot miracle. And I was like, no, I don't want the Patriot miracle. I don't
Yeah.
want the Christmas miracle. I want them to lose. Like, yay, my team won. Cool. I'm excited for that. But now Washington now has the 3rd pick overall and New England has the 4th. I'm like, that probably just threw them out of, the best quarterback picks.
Yeah.
I'm like, stop winning. Stop winning, man. I mean, I was happy for Zappy. because he was so animated and so excited on that sideline after they won that game. And he deserved it. He played well. But I mean, Zappy played real well. He was 25 for 33, 256 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He played really, really well. I was really happy with, like, proud of him, actually. But I'm like, why? And why? Just
Yeah.
stop. Just
Yeah.
stop.
That's always weird where at the end of the year, like the bad teams try really hard to win, and then
Well,
it's
remember
just
it was, what was it, 2 years ago, or was it last year when the Texans won? And it
yep.
was like, why?
Well, that
Why?
worked out for him because they ended up getting Stroud. So maybe that works out for you guys.
Oh, snap. There goes my screaming child. He's in the
uh
middle of a nap. He must have had a bad dream or some indigestion.
Well, he heard about that Patriots win and he's screaming why. But on that note, Casino, let's be the screaming child in all of us and go to week 17. We both picked the Browns, so we're both starting the night off or starting the week off with a win. But also, I was saying this is the last good week of football because I don't know if you've seen the week 18 slate, but it is just there's not one good game next week. This week we have 2 good
No,
games.
there is. You get the Lions Vikings again. That's an important game.
Not if the Lions, I think if they win this one or if they lose this one, they're locked into their spot, right?
Okay, but you
Isn't
still
that
you have some good and divisional stuff for me
well,
personally. So
it's all just seeding.
you talked about it already. You got the 49ers versus the Rams. That's a big game. You have the Steelers Ravens. That's fun and divisional. Lions Vikings. I will watch that. And then you have Bears and Packers. Who doesn't want to watch Bears and Packers? You know,
Ugh,
and then
the
Raiders Broncos.
overrated rivalry in NFL history. I hate
Packers
how we
Bears.
hype up Bears Packers and then it's always a shit game. I hate it. But the 2 really good games, Casino, are the first 2 games we're going to talk about, which is the Detroit Lions, as you were
Let's
just talking about,
go.
11-4 going into 10-5 Dallas. Who you got in this one, Casino?
Man. This one is kind of, I don't know. This one's gonna be tough for me to pick. You go first.
I'm picking Cowboys. I'm
Okay.
picking Cowboys. I like the Lions better, but but also this is why I don't like Dallas and I do like the Dolphins because they're basically both the same teams, except in the playoffs, the Dolphins are going to get a home playoff game and the Cowboys are not. The Cowboys are not going to have one
Dolphins? Do you
in the
mean, are you trying to say Lions?
no. I'm saying because the Dolphins because I have the Dolphins in my Super Bowl bubble, but not the
Mm,
Cowboys, but they're basically the same team. But the only reason I think the Dolphins will do anything in the playoffs is because they have a home playoff game, potentially more. The Cowboys cannot have a playoff game because the Eagles and 49ers and then 2 more division winners are going to be ahead of them. So
right.
I think the Cowboys win this game because they're going to be at home, but I don't think they're a threat in the playoffs because they're not going to have a home playoff game. That being said,
So I'm gonna go Dallas as well because they're still fighting for the top of that division, against the Eagles. So this is a huge game for them. In Detroit, they've already guaranteed themselves, you know, at least the 4 seed. Well, it's actually no, it's already they're going to get the 3 because the Bucks or the Falcons or whoever in the NFC South. So they guaranteed themselves at least the 3 seed. You know,
yeah,
so I don't think the Lions are too worried about that. I think the Cowboys have more to play for, so I'm going to go with the Cowboys, but I think it'll be close. Um, that's where I'm going to lead.
now
Plus, it's in. You know that the Cowboys are going to get some help, and it's going to be annoying. And ugh,
Now the interesting thing is ironically, if the Cowboys win this game, it helps the Eagles have a shot at still getting the number 1 seed because the 49ers, you know how at the end of the year they always do those. If this team wins and this team
mhm.
loses, blah blah blah. So if the 49ers lose one of their last 2 games, which I think there's potential for not this week, but next week to against the Rams, if the Rams beat the Niners, and if the Cowboys beat the Lions and then the Eagles went out, they would get the number 1 seed. So the Eagles play Cardinals and Giants this or the next 2 weeks, which I think both of those games they should win. The Cowboys, I think, should win this game because it's at home. And I think the 49ers could potentially lose to the Rams. So I think it's set up to but the only thing really these last 3 weeks, because these are all playoff teams, is just seeding. So if the Lions win out and the 49ers lose one game, the Lions could end the season as the number 1 seed, which would be insane. Now, the things in favor to the Lions with this game is they play in a dome. They're obviously going to the Dallas Cowboys Stadium, who also is a dome. So it's not like it's going to be a weather game or something like that. So I think this game will be close. I don't think it'll be a blowout necessarily, but then again, we've seen the Cowboys blow people out at home and we've seen the Lions get blown out on the road. So I don't think it'll be a blowout because, again, I think the Lions are really good. But if it does get blown out, I think you can just dismiss it by just being like the Cowboys are really good at home, right? Like, I don't think the Cowboys are a bad team. I just don't think they can do anything on the road, which they're going to have to do during the playoffs, which ends their playoff run. Next up, Casino so we're both picking the Cowboys on that one. Next up, 10 a.m. How this game was not flexed to Sunday night, how it was not flexed to the afternoon, America's game of the week. I don't understand. I guess it couldn't be the afternoon game of the week because it would be a CBS game and not a Fox game. Who knows? The 11-4 Miami Dolphins traveling to Baltimore to face the 12-3 Ravens. Dolphins, this may shock you, Casino. Number 1 in total offense, number 3 in total defense. So they are a top 3 team in offense, defense, passing, and then number 5 in rushing. So they are, you're on mute. They are a
Does not shock me.
the Ravens, 5th in total offense, 5th in total defense, number 1 in the league in rushing, and then obviously 21st in passing, but that's also because Lamar Jackson missed a couple games. Thoughts on this matchup, Casino?
Yeah, I already kind of just went over it all a little bit ago. Ravens are going to be too physical for the Dolphins. Dolphins are going to be fast. They're going to put up points. But I just can't see the juggernaut of the Ravens right now losing to the Dolphins at home. Just can't see them.
Yeah, this has eerily.
If it happens, good on the Dolphins for running them down. But I just can't see it happening.
This has eerily similar vibes to, remember when Miami put up 70 points on the Broncos and everybody was like, this Miami team's going to be undefeated. And then the next week, they literally just got pushed around and bullied by the Buffalo Bills and like basically blown off the floor. I really think that's what we're about to see. But again, the Ravens are just one of those weird teams where they kind of blow games at the end that they should win. Like, I mean, they lost that Colts game where it was like they had a 99% winnability chance going into like the last 3 minutes of that game and somehow lost it. But then again, Miami lost that Monday night game to the Titans where they had the same odds. So these are two weirdly weird teams that like giving it away at the end, or at least making it close at the end. But I'm with you. I'm going with the Ravens, especially after what we saw them do to the 49ers and the Dolphins Cowboys game. Cowboys actually looked pretty good for being on the road in that game, but Miami just got the luck of the draw, basically getting the ball last and kind of just slowly running it down their throat. So I do think this game will be competitive. I'm not saying it'll be a blowout, but I don't see how, with the momentum the Ravens have after destroying the 49ers, that and then there's also, I know Tyreek Hill's back. I think Waddle has been ruled out of this game, so who knows? I just think right now with how hot the Ravens are, I just don't see them losing to the Dolphins. But now that we've gotten the two good games out of the way, Casino. Let's just get
Yes.
to, I think it's just a shit sandwich of a day after 10 a.m. because the rest of the games, by God. Let's talk about your New England Patriots coming off
Nah,
a huge win, 4-11 at the 9-6 Buffalo Bills. Who you got, Casino?
Bills all day. Their Bills are still fighting to make the playoffs here and
Yeah.
stay there. So
It's insane that the Bills are could still miss the playoffs with
oh
how
yeah.
we've seen them. It's crazy. The Bills also right now top 5 or they're number 4 in offense, ninth in defense, ninth in passing, seventh in rushing. So they're
It's
literally top 10 in everything.
yeah, but it's Josh Allen losing them games.
Yeah. And but if they finish 11-6 and get into the playoffs, I think they're dangerous. I
Oh
think
yeah.
they are
No,
dangerous.
they would be where we would want them. Thought they would maybe a little bit better. But they were so shaky and on and off the beginning part of the season.
And if Bills played the Chiefs again, there's no way if you're a Chiefs fan, you're going confident into that game like, oh, we got this. The Bills are just a better team all around than the Chiefs are. And the only reason you would be picking the Chiefs is because of past playoff history, not because of anything the Chiefs have done this year. But so we're both picking the Bills on that one. Next up, 7-8 Atlanta Falcons at the 6-9 Chicago Bears. Two running teams. I mean, not much here, Casino.
I don't know. Every time I pick who are you picking? Who are you picking?
No, because you're just going to pick the opposite of me.
Well, here's the
Go
thing:
with your
is
heart.
every
Go.
time that I pick the Falcons to win, they lose, and every time I pick them to lose, they win. So
Yeah.
I
I mean,
don't know.
ditto. I don't know why I still believe in the Falcons, but I do. And then I watch Falcons games and I'm like, why did I do this to myself? I'm picking the Bears because I can't have myself trying to root for this Falcons team.
Well, I want the Bears to win, so let's go Falcons.
All right, there you go. Because our first difference of the day, Casino, it's on a Falcons Bears game. It's on a Falcons Bears game. Next up, 5-10 Tennessee Titans at 8-7 Houston Texans, and CJ Stroud cleared concussion protocol, so he will be back for this game.
I want to see Stroud. I want to see Stroud crush it, and I think the Titans have finally given up. I think they've given up for the season. So let's go Houston. I want to see Houston in the playoffs. I want to see CJ Stroud in a playoff game. I want to see it.
Yeah, I do too. I talked last episode about the teams I think would be really fun to have in the playoffs. And at this point, the Bengals are still in the playoffs, as are the Jaguars. But
Let's go Lions Bengals Super Bowl.
But if the Texans win out and the Jaguars lose out, I think the Texans and Jags would swap, which is what I'm rooting for because I don't want to see the Jaguars or the Bengals in the playoffs. So give me the Texans, Casino, even though I think this is one of those sneaky games where everybody's going to be like, CJ Stroud's back, and all this bets and money and picks are going to go on the Texans, and then all of a sudden the Titans are going to come out. Will Levis is going to throw 4 touchdowns and win by 10 points, and
Yeah, I don't
everybody's just
see
going to be
that.
like, ugh.
Not
But
against a team that's trying to make the playoffs.
I don't know. Speaking of two teams trying to make the playoffs, Casino, 7-8 Raiders at the 8-7 Indianapolis Colts. Who you got in this one, Casino? Know what? This game might actually be interesting to watch.
I'm going to go Raiders on this. I think last week beating the Chiefs the way they did, they believe that they can pull this off.
Yeah.
I'm going with the Raiders.
I am actually going with the Colts just because I trust the Colts team more than I trust this Raiders team. If you look at the Raiders the last month since Antonio Pierce took over, they've won a game. They've lost a game where they couldn't score a field goal. They won a blowout game, and then they won against the Chiefs where their quarterback didn't complete a pass after the first quarter. So they're winning all different kinds of ways, which is good, but it's also, I don't know what the identity of this team is. I don't know how good this team is.
That's fair.
I don't know what to put on this
Remember,
team.
I had 12 and you had 9.
That's true. That's why I have to take wild swings. And I'm
Uh,
going with the Colts because I trust Shane Steichen. I kind of like this Colts team. And yeah, I don't know. I'm not saying I don't like this Raiders team because I think they're fun to watch, which is why I think this game will be fun to watch. Next up, just the bane of my existence with this kind of game, Casino. The 2-13 Carolina Panthers at the 8-7 Jacksonville Jaguars, a game I will try to watch 0 minutes of.
I want
I
the
have no
Panthers to
interest in
win.
this.
I'm picking Jaguars. I want the Panthers to win. I want the Panthers to win their next 2. I want the Commanders to beat the Niners this week. I need the Cardinals to beat the Eagles. I need all these things to happen. But
I said that I would last week was my last Jacksonville Jaguars pick. That was before I realized they were playing the Panthers. But you know what? I'm sticking to my guns. What do I have to lose? I'm picking the Panthers. Fuck it. Fuck it.
defense, you know what? Their defense has been looking good.
Yeah, the Panthers have the 4th total defense in the league.
Their defense is legit.
If they can literally get anything on offense
If they could have picked, if they picked CJ Stroud,
yeah, this team would be probably pretty damn good. All right, next up, the 8-7 LA Rams at the 5-10 New York Giants.
Rams are that playoff spot. Go Rams.
Yeah, I also agree that I just want to see there's the potential where we get in the first and second week of the playoffs, the wild card round, we get Lions where the Rams, led by Matthew Stafford, go into Detroit to play a playoff game. I want to see that matchup, right? Because then you have the Goff McVay thing, you have the Stafford Lions thing, and then there's also the second week where you can potentially have Ravens Browns where Joe Flacco is going back into Baltimore to play the Ravens. Those are the 2 playoff matchups I want to see. I just think that'll be fun. I would love to see the Rams in the playoffs. I think they can be a dangerous team in the playoffs, especially with how they've been playing in the past month. And Giants, I mean, what can you say about the Giants? Next up, the 3-12. The 3-12 Arizona Cardinals traveling to the 11-4 my Philadelphia Eagles, Casino. Make your pick.
Eagles.
I agree. I will say since Matt Patricia took over this defense, the defense has looked a billion times fucking better. And
Dude,
they have
Patricia just needs to stick to running his defense. He's an amazing defensive coordinator.
Everybody was like, oh man, like this was all Bill Belichick. And then instantly he comes in and their defense looks actually competent. And they have 2 cornerbacks in Kelly Ringo, which is a great fucking name. And then they have oh fuck, I'm blanking on his other name. But basically they have 2 cornerbacks who all of a sudden are now like elite cornerbacks playing against like some of the best wide receivers in the league. And yeah, I don't think this Eagles team will do anything in the playoffs because I think their offense is stagnant and predictable. But I did say on last episode, the 5 of their best wins of the last 2 seasons all 5 have been this season. So I do think that this team, their Achilles heel is they basically just play to the level of their competition. So when they're playing a Giants team that's bad, they play down to their level. When they're playing a Bills team that's playing really good, they play up to their level. So I do think you can get when it comes to betting this game, the line is like 11.5. Bet the Cardinals and you're getting 11.5 points all fucking day. This is going to be like a 7-point game. I mean, I don't think the Cardinals win. I think the Eagles should take their revenge out on Murray from Impractical Jokers as their head coach who cost them a Super Bowl. This is your revenge, more so than when you played the Chiefs. This is your revenge game. This is your Super Bowl. Please, I said I needed one blowout. in the last 3 weeks. I almost got it last week, and then by a comedy of errors, it became a close game. I need a blowout victory in this game for my own sanity, for your own self-respect. Please destroy Gannon's Cardinals team. But then again, this is probably going to be a close game that I'm going to be sweating all night. And yeah. Next up, the New Orleans Saints. The
Who?
7-8 New Orleans Saints at the 8-7 Baker-led Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This, you know what? I maybe spoke too soon because there is a bunch of 10 a.m. games I'm interested in. This is one of them.
I'll go first. I'm going Bucks. I think Baker these last few weeks has really turned it on that he wants to win this division. He wants to be in the playoffs. He wants to have a shot in the playoffs. I don't think he's going to let, especially being at home, I don't think he's going to let the Saints come and take it from him. I mean, plus, the Saints, they play indoors. Tampa's outdoors. So I do think that does give you a little bit, more of an edge. I do think that the Bucks will take this. I think Baker has another good day, and I think he wants this.
Yeah,
more than Carr.
No, and Baker this season, 64% completion percentage, 3,600 yards, 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions.
Yeah, he wants it.
That's a damn good season. And again, there's still he's going to end the season, probably over 30 touchdowns, less than 10 interceptions. Who would have thought? I
love it. I love Baker over in Tampa.
Too. Yeah. Mike Evans also 73 receptions, almost 1,200 yards, 13 touchdowns this season.
He had a good season this year.
The Buccaneers, sneaky good season. Them and the Rams, I'm telling you, they both win this week.
For not expecting to have a decent season, the Bucs have done very well.
Yeah.
I just hope
the Saints don't upset them because I think the Saints team is just boring to watch. I just think they're a weird team. Next up, so we're both picking the Bucks on that one. Next up, Casino, we have the 11-4 San Francisco 49ers going into Washington, who are 4-11. Commanders have the worst defense in the league.
The Commanders have no defense. Mike Shanahan's going to look like a fucking genius against this command. That's what I mean. Kyle Shanahan's going to look. Who did I say?
Mike Shanahan, his dad, right?
Huh.
Yeah.
There you go. Kyle is going to look like wow, that was weird. Kyle is going to look like an absolute genius against this Commanders team. So, I mean, it goes back to when the Commanders they got rid of their two best edge rushers. Their only two good edge rushers.
Yeah, they just gave up.
Yeah, they just gave up. So they tanked all the way to the 32nd worst defense in the league, and they're going to stay there, and they're going to stay there, and they're going to stay there.
This is the game. You lose to the Ravens in the way you did. You kind of just brush it off and be like, it's happened to every team this season.
No, I think Brock Purdy, I think he flips it. He's 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions.
Yeah, if Brock Purdy has a bad game this game and the 49ers lose or have a bad game, then you start hitting the panic button and there's red flags everywhere and the alarms are going off and everybody's freaking out. Losing against the Rams like you did, not a problem. Losing against this Commanders team at this point in the season, problem, red flag, all hands on deck, start freaking the fuck out. Next up, Casino, 8-7 Pittsburgh Steelers go to Seattle, 8-7 Seattle. Both these teams almost mirror images of each other, which is how are they winning these games? How is either of these teams 8-7?
I'm going Seahawks because you got the 12th man backing you up. And I know Steelers fans travel very well, the best traveling team in the league. I'm going Seahawks mainly because I want to spite that person who sent that message. I'm still talking about you, sir. And I hope you listen to this, and I hope you laugh and smile every time that we bring you up because you were one of the first commenters on our show, and it made me happy. So I'm just gonna keep digging at you. So this is great.
You know what? I'm with you, sir. I'm picking the Steelers just for that guy. I believe in the Steelers. They're gonna. This team is 8-7. They're gonna finish 10-7, and everybody's gonna be like, "How the fuck did that happen?" It's gonna happen. I believe in the Steelers,
No,
especially
they're not
against the
going to finish 10 and
Seahawks
7.
team.
They're not going to beat the Ravens in last week. I told
Yeah,
you
but the
that.
Ravens might have everything locked up and just sit everybody and be
Well,
like,
that's a
"Who
good
gives a
point.
shit?" Yeah. So I'm picking the Steelers over the Seahawks. Fuck the Seahawks this season. I can't believe the Eagles lost to them. And I hope they play in the playoffs again.
Rodney.
And the Eagles just get revenge on them. Next up, 5-10 Los Angeles Chargers against the 7-8 Denver Broncos. And the breaking news this week, Casino, was the Broncos have benched Russell Wilson, basically told him, you're not going to be on this team next year. So in the debate or the rivalry
Oh, dude,
between Sean
that's
Payton
so
and
much
Russell
money.
Wilson, in who would
That's so
win,
much money.
yeah. It was Sean Payton, basically because whoever was before Sean Payton or the GM that's still there gave Russell Wilson way too much fucking money. And the Broncos were like, there's no way we can justify paying Russell Wilson $40 million next year. Or I think I was listening to an interview with somebody breaking it down. It's like if they don't cut him by May of next year, they basically have to pay him $40 million both next year and the year after that, like the way the contract. So basically, they're cutting him to save $80 million, which is fucking crazy. So, and makes complete and total sense. So, who you got winning this one, Casino?
I'm still going to go Broncos.
You know what? That being said, me too. And it's crazy because Russell Wilson, honestly, not having a bad season. 66% completion percentage.
He had a better. Listen, he had a better season than the previous.
Yeah, well, he has 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions.
Yeah.
I didn't realize he was. I mean, that's basically Baker's numbers.
Yeah,
I
well,
didn't
we
realize he
expect
had
that
that
from
good of a season.
you have a Super Bowl winning quarterback in Baker Mayfield, commercial king.
Commercial king,
dude. By the way, I still love one of my absolute favorite like NFL commercials. Though it was like the Baker at home thing, but it's where he's watering the plants with the middle aged ladies, and
no, all those commercials were good.
they're all good. But I
Yeah.
like that one the best, where he's like talking shit about the other lady with the like three. You know which one I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That one makes me laugh every single fucking time. That one's so good.
But both of us are picking the Broncos. The Chargers are just shockingly a dumpster fire. I know they were everyone's fucking pick to go to the Super Bowl.
I'm over
for
them
no
finally.
reason whatsoever.
All in all, I'm over. They have so much talent, and they were just so poorly managed and coached that I'm just. It's so sad. It's so sad because I do like Herbert. I know you don't, but I think he's
talented.
talented.
Hate him. I just think he's overrated.
Well, I don't think he's even overrated. I think they just mismanaged him so bad.
Well, the second you lose a 4 touchdown lead they came back from 4 touchdowns down to beat the Jaguars, right? Last year. Wasn't it? Or was it the other? No, I think it was
it was
lost
Jaguars.
That game.
Jaguars won.
Yeah, so they lost that game up 4 touchdowns, and then the management was still like, let's bring back Brandon Staley. After that game, he should have immediately been fired. He lasted way longer than he should have. But yeah, again, anyway. The Chargers reap what they sow, and now they're a shit team that's going to miss the playoffs. Next up, the 8-7 Cincinnati Bengals at the 9-6 Kansas City Chiefs. Glad the Joe Burrow discourse literally ended after 2 weeks, where it was like, I said this on last episode, but it was like is Joe Burrow a system quarterback? Look at Browning and how good he's doing. And that literally happened. That went its entire cycle within the span of 2 games. And then everybody was like, oh yeah, Joe Burrow is really good. Browning was a flash in the pan. Also, speaking of, what the hell happened to Josh Dobbs? Because now he's just disappeared off the face of the earth, where everybody was like, this is that was a shorter run than Linsanity. And the shorter run than Josh Dobbs was the Browning in the Bengals. He's just gone now. Well, he's still starting, but
That
Again,
was a
he
nice
just had
crossover there. That was good.
but I'm picking the Chiefs in this one, Casino. I
Chiefs.
just think
They need to bounce back at home. I don't see them losing 2 at home.
no, I don't either. Especially, yeah, the way they lost that game against the Raiders with the pick six and literally their defense stopping the Raiders offense, from literally doing
Mhm.
anything and you still lose that game. That was rough. So if you lose to the Bengals, this Bengals team without Burrow, like I think it's after last week, you're like division rival, Christmas Day game, weird stuff. If you lose this game with no Burrow, it's time to hit the panic button. Like this is, and the Bengals defense has just fallen off a cliff this season. 31st in the league. How is that possible? Last year they were a top 10 defense. Uh, but let's go to our last game, Casino, which is no Monday night game. And then this is the Sunday night game, which is the 7-8 Packers at the 7-8 Nick Mullins led Vikings team. Who you got, Casino?
I like how Jordan Love's played. And I think the Vikings, after they lost to the Lions last week, I think they're just defeated. Jefferson's beat up. They got some injuries there. I do think the Packers come out and win this.
That was basically my rationale as well. Jordan Love has had, just a pretty
He listened to
phenomenal
the
season.
he listened to this podcast and he turned his shit around.
Yeah, he started the season off hot. He had a real couple, maybe month and a half, 2-month period where he just fell off a fucking cliff, and now he's scaled back up that cliff, and now he's playing pretty damn good. Finishing the season, 3,600 yards, 27 touchdowns, 11 interceptions with a 62.5 completion percentage. Like, goddamn, pretty good damn season, especially for your 7-8 Green Bay Packers that still have a chance to make the playoffs if they win out and a bunch of other shit happens. But I'm also going with the Packers. So we finish this week in predictions having 3 games difference. It is the Falcons Bears game, the Jacksonville Jaguars and Panthers game, and then the Seahawks Steelers game. So those are the 3 games we have to now watch, Casino, for this podcast. But also, not the only football happening this weekend, which we're also going to add these to the picks, Casino, because we have
No, fine.
we have the big New Year's Day games. I don't even think we'll pick different teams, so it's not like it'll matter. It's not like it'll matter, but we have on. Oh, let me scroll to it. We have the Sugar Bowl on Monday, preceding the Rose Bowl game. Also on Monday.
Before we get to that,
Yes.
I want to talk about tomorrow's game. You have University of Georgia versus the FSU.
Yeah.
Sorry. And FSU is plus 20. Do you agree with that or not? Do you think that college football is just the committee is just totally fucking them? I know that they keep losing their quarterbacks and they keep having issues, but dude, that is
they're down 40?
They're down
40-point underdogs, or they're 20-point underdogs.
Yes.
Oh my god. Oh my god. I did not know that.
I mean, Georgia's legit. I get that, but come on, man. I'm pulling for them. I want it to be a slap in the face to the fucking committee. I want them to absolutely smoke Georgia.
I do too. I think everybody's rooting for Florida State to just blow out Georgia, but the worst thing that could possibly happen to Florida State is for them to get blown out by Georgia. Mm-hmm. So if it's a close game, I still think that favors Florida State, win or lose, because then it at least shows they can hang. But if Florida State blows out Georgia, then all of a sudden it becomes a real discussion about like seeding and all that kind of stuff. If Florida State gets blown out by Georgia, that's the end of the conversation, because that will literally be validation to everyone that made them fall out of the top 4 and not have a shot at the
Right.
championship. So, yeah, I also last night, I don't know if you watched it, but I watched the Arizona Oklahoma game. Arizona basically blew them out or whatever. Great game. I've always liked
No, I had the
Arizona.
Knights. I had the Knights game on, and then
Oh
football.
man. Yeah, Arizona blew them out, looked really good. Then I also watched the USC game. What is it? The Holiday Bowl, USC in Louisville, not last night, but on Wednesday. That USC backup quarterback, I feel like coming in and just throwing what he had 4 or 5 touchdowns, and almost a perfect passer rating. How that doesn't lower the stock of Caleb Williams, I don't know. That's also the risk of sitting out a bowl game, right? Where your replacement or your backup can come in and just do as good, if not better, than you were projected to do in that game. And then all of a sudden there's a bunch of question marks as if there wasn't any before about him. So I don't know, not a good look for Caleb Williams. Great look for USC. If this is going to be your quarterback next year, like looks like a plug and play. You get some defense, and then all of a sudden you're coming into next year and looking pretty damn good.
I like the
Forms.
name of their stadium, the Big House. Like, dude,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
legit, and that place is scary looking, dude.
And I don't care what anyone says. Most dudes, if you're just not born at a place, pick your football teams based on two things: how good they are when you pick them, and the colors of their uniforms. Yeah, you can say you don't. You're full of shit. That's how you pick your favorite team when you're a kid.
My
Uh,
favorite team, how I picked like my favorite EPL team, English Premier League team, is because I saw Arsenal win the first time I saw an EPL game that I recall, and I was like, I want them to be my team, and that's how I
yeah,
picked.
yeah.
Um,
Next up, later that night, the number 3 Texas versus number 2
Dude,
Washington in the
again,
Sugar Bowl.
again, there, and I know my buddy Victor, he's gonna like me on this one, this take. I hate that Washington is getting overlooked again. Everybody keeps doubting them. Yes, they are winning close games, but they're winning all those close games. Dude, being a 4-point underdog blows my mind. I know Texas is good, but Washington, in my opinion, is going to take this. I just can't. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. There will be another close game, but Washington hasn't shown that they will lose close games. They win every close game.
Yeah, a couple episodes ago when we were talking about what should be the 4 teams that make it into the final 4 college football playoff, I was making the case that this Texas team should legitimately be the number 1 ranked team in the nation, just because I think they have the potential to have the best defense of these 4 teams, the best offense of these 4 teams. I think they have the best win of these all 4 teams, where they went into Tuscaloosa and beat Alabama. So I am picking Texas. And I think Texas, Michigan would be a phenomenal, what is it, college football final. I think maybe when Casino gets back here, I'll get his take on this, but I think the least interesting uh Casino, where when it comes, I'm picking Texas. I'm picking Texas because I think, remember, I
That's
made
fine.
the case that I think Texas should be the number 1 ranked team, and I think they're the best team in college football this season, and they have the best win with that win over Alabama. But in terms of Final Four matchups that become the final 2 in the championship, what do you think would be the highest rated matchup and the least rated matchup?
Oh, I think if you have 2 undefeated teams, I think if you have Michigan, Washington rolling in there, dude, I really do. Having one and 2 seed, because obviously Alabama would be, if you throw Bama, Washington, or Bama, Texas, I think any which one of these things would be the highest, like really good. I think Texas, Michigan might be the lowest, possibly, but I can see the appeal for all of these. Like if Michigan makes it to the national championship game, dude, they've been waiting for this for a good while, dude. Like the viewership on this is going to be insane. Um, and obviously, if Alabama goes, that's going to be huge. Everybody will watch it because it's Bama. But I think Michigan, Washington, if you watch that, 2 undefeated teams going into it, number one, number two. You can't ask for anything better. You have a team that is super dominant with Michigan, and you have a team that just fights and finds ways to win with Washington. Like, that's a solid, to me, that's a solid viewership.
That's interesting you say that, because I was going to say Michigan Washington would probably be the least watched, just because Washington has the least rabid fan base of these four teams.
But that's
I
true.
think.
But that makes it that's appealing.
Oh, I'm not saying game. I'm not saying good game. I'm saying like in terms of like how the Super Bowl
No,
appeals to
I
people
understand.
outside of
I understand
football
that, but
fans.
it's
Yeah.
fresh teams in there. I think college is a little different. I think people are over Bama, Texas, meh. Michigan obviously has a great fan base, and yes, Washington is the least biggest fan base out of all of that. However, they've had so many good entertaining games this year. I think people are
Yeah.
intrigued by Washington. I think people are enjoying watching those games. That's just my take on how I've talked to people who come into town, and I've experienced talking to people about the bar. Like, a lot of people who aren't fans of Washington talk about Washington. So that's where I'm at with that.
Yeah. But I do think that the final matchup will be Michigan, Texas. I think it'll get huge ratings. I think that'll be good for college football because it's two big franchises. I think maybe the least interesting matchup would be Alabama, Washington, even though there would be, underdog and going against, the storied franchise that always wins in the championship and stuff like that. I think Alabama, Texas as a matchup would be interesting, but we've already seen that this season. So then it would be the whole revenge game thing.
Yeah,
But I don't
I
think
don't.
anybody would be
Nobody
rooting
likes
for
those.
Alabama.
No.
Yeah. I think Michigan, Texas would be interesting because it would be two newer teams that we haven't seen in the championship. And there's the history there of two storied franchises. So, but I really do think as long as it's not Alabama, Texas, I think it's going to be a really exciting matchup. I think that's my least interested matchup, but then you put Texas, Michigan, all of a sudden that's my number one matchup. And that's who I'm going with. I think it's Michigan, Texas at the end. You are saying Michigan, Washington. So we will see that.
Until I see Washington lose a close game, I can't pick against them.
No, I get it. Before we get out of here, Casino, you wanted to talk about the huge baseball signing by the Dodgers.
We could touch on it real quick, as I do got to go.
Yeah, we're not talking about Ohtani. There was another one.
No, Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Huge.
You can't fucking pronounce anyone's name on football teams, but you just every baseball player, the exact pronunciation.
Yeah.
Jesus, that was impressive. But go on.
Funny enough, I do watch a lot of Korean or Japanese shows, and I do watch them. I know this is me being telling you my little nerdy stuff, but I do watch a lot of those shows. Not all anime, a lot of actual shows, and I do watch them with subtitles. I don't listen to the dub. So I have friends who live in Japan, so I've just gotten good at pronouncing those kind of names. So yeah, and plus I've been hearing it a lot. So anyway, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, he is a hot, and he's good looking too. 25-year-old pitcher coming out of Japan. He's the best pitcher, up and coming pitcher right now. And you throw him in there with the Dodgers signing Shohei Ohtani as well, who is undergoing his second Tommy John surgery, which might hinder him a little bit, but he didn't get hindered last time he had it. He came back out and he was still crushing the baseball and pitching like a beast. So I do like this, because you throw him in rotation with Shohei, you take some stress off of Shohei's arm. This is where I'm getting at with this, and why I want to bring this up is, if the Dodgers don't win this year with what they have spent in this offseason, yes, Ohtani made a very friendly deal for the Dodgers so they can acquire other players like Yamamoto, that it is just if you don't win this year and you flop in the playoffs again, to say the Padres or another team that you've done already, somebody's got to get let go because you're spending so much money. But it's almost, I'm bringing this up because it's almost like you don't even need to watch. If it's not a Dodgers Yankees World Series this year, I don't know if I will ever believe in spending money for players ever again, because both teams have loaded up this offseason and they still have time and money to spend more and players on the market. And they're looking at other players in the market per reports. So baseball might be very boring this year. Might not talk a lot about it because until the World Series, if it's a Dodgers Yankees World Series, but that's what it has to be. And if it's not, everybody's got to question this whole paying for players. Everybody might go to the Billy Bean fucking, even though they never won, but go to the Moneyball kind of thing because it's not working.
Well, also just all the teams last year, like the Orioles that finished great in the regular season, immediately get eliminated in the postseason. And then it's just a bunch of teams that it was just like didn't matter in the regular season. So it makes you wonder, how much does the regular season baseball matter if we get to the playoffs and all the best teams immediately get eliminated? And then you're stuck with, again, 2 teams in the World Series, 3 episodes ago, we couldn't remember. Like, it's just, I don't know. But hopefully we do just get a good baseball season where I would like to see, I think baseball is one of the few sports where dynasties and great teams being great actually helps the sport in terms of watchability and like storylines and stuff like that. So I do think just going into the season with a couple super teams will actually help, but that's it for us, Casino. This has been the return of Casino, the only sports podcast. I'm Will. That's Casino over there.
And I'm ready to see those viewerships be 10 again instead of 50. Let's do it. If that's the case, I'm literally just going to take a year off and you can just finish out.
I mean, I'll see you. You know what, Casino? Speaking of, I'll see you next year. I'll see you next year.
No, we might see each other before the end of this year.
The end of this year is in 2 days.
We might see each other. We'll see.
Okay. All right. This has been the Only Sports Podcast. I'm Will. That's Casino over there. Adios.